everybody. Welcome back once again to another episode of the Rich Cheese Radio podcast, your home for the horological hot takes, taboo topics, and often unpopular watch opinions. I'm your host, Brodinky. With me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Schmidt. Schmitty, what's going on?
Not a whole lot, man. How are you doing?
Not too shabby. Doing some good stuff. So we've got roughly, counting on hands and toes here, roughly about 10 G's in the tank already for Medwear Pink. So that's awesome. Moving a lot of straps, getting a lot of good feedback. I know you got yours finally. What do you think?
Dude,
First impression?
First impressions, like right off the bat, like pulling it out of the mailbox, was very happy.
Did you like the pink mailer?
Oh, dude, it was so clutch. It was so clutch. Like I was like, this is very on brand. I love the pink shipping label and the pink mailer. I was like, very on brand. And I was very happy to see that in my stack of mail. So that was my first initial reaction. So already that was a positive sign. And then the strap itself, man, it's extremely high quality, and I think it satiated a lot of my kind of concerns from the previous one that we did last year, which is a little bulkier. It was a nice rubber strap. FKM.
It was hefty,
but it was a little thicker, so you got to wear that on a heftier timepiece
for sure.
But this one, the taper is so nice. It's the right profile. There's so many adjustment points, which I really love, and I love how close they are together.
Yeah, you get a real precise fit.
This is probably one of the only straps where I put it in the hole and I'm like, nope, that's it. Like, I don't need to go in or out anymore. Like, that is the spot for it. And I love the fact that I was able to swap out my OEM Omega buckle for the deployant, because it's literally, the strap that the deployant clasp he's using is modeled after the Omega deployant clasp. So I love the fact that I was able to retrofit my actual OEM clasp onto the strap perfectly with no modifications, and it looks OEM. So I'm like, all right, this is let's rock this. So she's sitting on the Moonwatch right now, as you can see, and I love it. I think it's phenomenal. So kudos to you, and kudos to my boy at Strap Habit, because this is a home run winning strap for sure.
Yeah, I think he really nailed it with this one. Even some of the people I know who are like, I've got the previous ones, but I have a little bit of a smaller wrist. I like one run we did had a double length in it where you could use a smaller length on it. I think it was a sailcloth. And they were like, yeah, that was so great. And I was like, well, wait till you get this one, because it's so adjustable. And then you just tuck the excess under. You don't even realize it's there. It's perfect. It sits nice. It's excellent. Like, doesn't matter what size your wrist is, it nails it. And they got it. They confirmed same thing. They're like, dude, 100% right. Like, I was a little worried, smaller wrist. Like, a lot of times the rubber will, doesn't sit quite right, bobbles back and forth.
Yeah.
Or, I got to go all the way to the last adjustment, and then I've got this huge overhang of strap, and it's really uncomfortable or unsightly. I'm like, I get it, man. I get it. But yeah, they've confirmed that, fits like a glove. So if you haven't got one, you were on the fence, you were curious, go do it.
And just by that same token, I mean, obviously we're selling the ones for men wear pink and the pink variation, but even the standard models, like, I'm already considering ordering a few more of the standard colorways, because I have watches that I've been looking at to have rubber straps where this would be a perfect plug and play. And, knowing that most of my watches are Omegas, I could swap them out with Omega clasps and things like that now. Like, I'm much more inclined to order more of them, because they are that good. So guys, go out and get them, support the cause, but just go out and get some more straps, because they're phenomenal quality. They're super comfortable, and you will get the perfect fit every single time. I guarantee it. It's amazing.
Yeah, so that means we have to be somewhere around, I don't know, a quarter sold right now. So they're not flying at light speed, but they're going. So, definitely get one while you can, because I always have people after the fact. Hey, are these still for sale? Hey, are these coming back? Hey, how long
every year?
Yeah,
every year.
And sometimes maybe you'll have some that are left over in like kind of an odd size or something. You'll have one or two here and there, but not many, especially not the 20s, the 22s. They go quick. So 20 especially.
Yeah, 19s and 21s are a little easier to get sometimes, but the 20s and 22s, they're gone quite fast.
Definitely. But yeah, so that was kind of the highlight of our week. We kicked that off. Everything's been going well. It's been really well received. Big shouts to the community for sort of embracing it every year. I know some people kind of look forward to it every year and are just down to get, I understand it's got to be a maybe a tad annoying to be like, am I really gonna get another goddamn pink strap this year? But like some
Yes.
people are like in for it though. Some people are like,
Yeah.
when
I'm
is the
down every
next
year.
one out? I am getting it.
I mean, I'm down every year, and again, like you get some of the samples and things like that. But I mean, for me, it's like I buy one every single year,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the fact that they're so different, and I love the post that the Strap Habit did where he put them side by side,
Yeah.
22, 23, 24, and I was like, that's so cool because like you really see that they are different shades of pink, they're different materials, they're different designs of straps, and so I was like, you know what? That makes me look forward to even what's going to come next. And this one, as I told you off air, it's going to be hard to top this one because it's that good. And it's cool to see that like every single year it's gotten better.
Yeah, I think
It's
they've
got
become streamlined as we've gone, sort
it's
of
yeah,
addressing not issues from last year, but like little hangups or like, if we've worn them enough over
yeah.
the course of like months where you'll be like, there was one little thing I would have changed or this and that. And then every year it just progresses and progresses. And it's going to be hard to beat this one.
That's for sure,
Let's just
man.
leave it
That's
at
for
that.
sure.
So,
That's for sure. But we're already cooking something up. We'll figure something
yeah,
out.
I was already giving you little inklings of what I was kicking around in the old cabeza for next year, but it's going to be tough to beat. So,
Yeah, for sure,
and,
man. For
and for
sure.
those who might be new listeners or new followers, whatever, you don't know, we do these straps for charity every year and 100% donation. Nick, he's a great dude, doesn't take any profit, will not accept any dough from me for production costs. So, all the kudos in the world to him. He really rocks it and puts out a really good strap. So, definitely check him out. And for any of the Yahoos out there who, yeah, this, there's always a few, and we joke about having the tinfoil hat on the show sometimes, but there's
Yeah.
always a few out there, and like whether it be I've seen on like we have some that get some people on YouTube will review the straps and stuff. There's a couple of people in the comments will be like, "Man, healthcare is a scam. You guys are getting washed over. This is even you shouldn't be donating to these." But listen, just for the record, even if you're that dude, like something like 18% goes to like research. The rest goes to people. Like
Yeah.
that's confirmed. Like you can go on the website. The rest goes to human beings who are either seeking treatment, in treatment, getting checked out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They need lodging. They need rides, whatever it is. Like
Flights, yeah.
yeah, it's not simply let's just dump a bunch of money to big pharma and let them make good decisions because we know. Listen, we know. All right, but
we agree with you, and we know.
we we're saying we know, we know. Okay, but
Yeah.
only a very small portion does indeed go towards research and development, all that stuff. Most of it goes to human beings, so that's really great.
Yeah.
And also, ACS is one of the highest. They have one of the highest percentages of amount per dollar donated, which is also a reason I was like, okay, I could get on board with this because
And
that's another thing.
ACS again for those who don't know.
The American Cancer Society.
There you go. I know you and I talk about ACS, but I want to make
Yeah, I
sure
know.
that people know people know
It
what we're
becomes a
talking about.
habit. Like especially, I don't know if anybody's ever gone on like a job interview lately, but they start throwing all the letters at you, like KPI, this, that, the other thing, and you're like, dude, we just cut the shit. Like I get it. You're just trying to like weed out the people who don't know what that is, but still, like we could just talk like humans. It's fine. But anyways, that was the highlight of our week. Aside from that, football's back. That's cool.
It
We've had
is.
some football related watch,
My
which
God.
is we'll just say better or worse. I did see. I don't know if you saw. It was pretty cool. Kathleen, my friend from Red Bar, put up. She was hanging out with Eli Manning. That was pretty neat. I am super jealous as a Giants fan. But yeah, so they put out some stuff. Trying to think of what else. I don't know. The weeks all blend together. I kind of forget what starts last week, ends this week, but just keeping busy other than that. Yeah. Anything
It's
on your end?
no man, it's spent this week at home, so I wasn't traveling this week, which is good. But had some family stuff going on, so recording late this week, but I'll be on the road again next week on the other side of the country, so it'll be interesting to see where I end up. But yeah.
Do you like a Where's Waldo?
Yeah, where's Schmidt in the world? That'd be fun for our listeners.
Yeah, yeah.
Figure out what state Schmidt is in.
Just start dropping little hints like CD diners and stuff. Like,
Yeah. Just gonna take a photo and start posting on Instagram stories like, where am I, guys?
we did get some interesting news this week. So finally, you can get a Moonswatch online.
You can,
And a lot
yes.
of people listen, a lot of people had something funny to say about it. It is, for some of the folks, I get it, a little comical, but a lot of people's big gripe is I don't live anywhere near a Swatch store. And
Hmm.
yes, you could get them on eBay. Yes, you can get them
Yeah.
secondhand. But if you wanted
But you
one,
shouldn't have to pay secondhand prices to get them like that.
correct. And even
Yeah.
though they've come down to, like the 260s on like your watch recon and stuff, if you wanted something that you got straight from the package and didn't have to pick up off some guy on the internet who you don't know if they abused it or whatever, you can now get one of the four original, I believe it's Sun, Moon, Earth, and Mars. Glad they put the Mars in there because I think that's everybody's kind of fan favorite from the
Yeah.
original batch. But you can get those four now online, which, for some of us was like, haha. But I think for some people, they were like, oh man, well, I'm not going to go out of my way to track one of these down. But if I could just order it to my door, I guess I will.
I mean, that's the way I look at it. I think that, the people that are, ho humming about the fact that they're finally online, you know, it, that was always kind of the teaser that they were going to do this at some point. They didn't specify exactly when they were going to do it, but it's there now. So if you haven't had the opportunity to snag one and you want to have kind of one of the classic four, obviously it's not all 12 that came out initially, but now this is your opportunity to grab one. So of course it's not going to be the super crazy ones like Neptune or anything like that, at least not yet. But this gives you an avenue to get a very cool watch. And I will say all the good things about the Moon's watch. As much as there's many haters out there, again, guys, it's a Swatch, it's not an Omega, but it is a very cool collaboration
But it's
and
it's
certainly a cool moment.
co-branded. It's co-branded.
It's but I just it always cracks me up to like this thing broke. I'm like, well, what did you do with it? Well, I fell off my bicycle
You
wearing it.
smashed it with a
Well,
hammer.
I'm like, but it has Omega. It should be Omega quality. I'm like, no, it's a Swatch. Okay, it's meant to die at some point. All right, but
Like
yeah,
buying that's like buying like the $15 Wagyu steak and being like, but it's Wagyu, right? You're like, this was terrible. And you're like, well, it was $15. So
yeah, but it's in the name. Yeah. Anyway, go get you a Moon Swatch if you don't have one yet. They're cool. They're fun. Don't take it too seriously. Just go buy one. It's a Swatch, not an Omega. There you go. There's my rant.
and in other not unexpected news, but finally the final days of Crown and Caliber. I think the
Oh,
last pieces have been sold.
oh, they're done now.
The
Yeah.
doors are shut. End of an era. I still have, I think, right. If you look behind me right here, I have a Crown and Caliber hat, one of the original ones
Yeah,
before they were even owned by the Dink. I got that.
yeah.
Yeah, they actually, it's funny that their social media team just put one up, and I was like, "Yo, I've bought a watch from you before. Can I get one?" And they're like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Oh, cool." That's how I got it.
There is one watch left in inventory.
Oh, imagine getting the last watch. What is it?
It is a Tag Carrera Chrono ceramic bezel. It's retailing at 3,500, but it is a 44 millimeter case. Everything must go. The last Crown and Caliber piece.
That's crazy.
Yep.
End of an era.
I mean, but what are you gonna do? What are you
It
gonna
was
do?
just a weird situation because even before they were bought out, they were pretty legit. Like they were good people. I never really
What
had
do
a
you
problem
mean
with them.
pretty legit? They were legit.
Yeah, they were pretty
They
legit.
were they were the foremost authority for buying and selling timepieces. I mean, let's be honest. And they were the first ones to have certification checks and make it very easy and streamlined for somebody who was outside of the industry to say, hey, you know what? I want to consign this watch. I want to sell it. Can I get a credit? Can I use this towards buying a new watch from you? All of these things that they did so well over the years, they made it very easy. And there was no scams. Like, for a long time, eBay and Chrono were not always the bastions of not getting scammed, right?
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
you still remember the episode that we did with what's his face about the whole Chrono 24
Oh
incident.
yeah, that was crazy.
I mean, it's just absolutely insane. That story still haunts me when I think about it. You know what I mean? It's like, and since that recording, it's like I will never do anything Chrono 24 related because of that. But regardless, Chronic Caliber was a place where people could feel at ease and confident They weren't getting scammed. They weren't getting screwed over, and they were dealing with a reputable business, essentially pseudo face to face. And it made it easy to buy and sell. And that's done. Now there's just a giant cavernous hole in the industry for that. Thanks, Ben.
And I thought they did a good job even when they started expanding into like the sort of contenty aspect of it. Like, they had that dude Nathan I liked. They got our boy Mark on
Oh, they
watches.
do.
Yeah,
Mark,
they had a great
shout
couple
out to Mark.
segments. Yeah.
Just for a moment, just shout out to Mark. Mark, big, always been a supporter of the show since we kind of first started. And,
Big
you
Men
know,
Wear Pink supporter as well.
huge, huge. And then the other thing too is I loved his videos when he would sit down and break down curated pieces that were kind of unique and special that people didn't really understand, but he's like, this is why you should pay attention. And I that was kind of the content that I like to consume because I've talked about that, like that's the kind of collecting mindsets that we share.
Well, how many pseudo hidden gem episodes have we done? Not exactly, not straight off the cuff, but in some realm,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, those were my favorite. The hidden gem episodes were so good. It was and he was right on every single one of them. All of his takes, I never saw a take from him that was not spot on.
But I think that's what people like. It wasn't like pitchy, It was just
No,
like, hey,
it didn't need to be pitchy. It's like, look, we have this, but this is why it's really freaking cool. And if you want to buy it, great. Call us. But this is you could see that when these products were being talked about, it was coming from a point of passion and a point of knowledge. Like somebody who's passionate about watches, passionate about the industry, passionate about all brands that they're representing. They wanted to share that love and passion with everyone else and get them excited about it. That's why it was authentic. It wasn't a sales pitch. It was just somebody telling you, no different than sitting across a table at a meetup, why this watch is freaking cool and why you should care. And that is authenticity that we'll be missing now.
for a show. And with
Mark,
that,
when you're ready to come on the show, buddy, let us
yeah,
know. All right.
hey, invites out there. Invites
It's always been out there. It's always been out there.
That's
Just
right.
drop us a DM. Drop us a DM.
Yeah, so I guess we'll jump into the new stuff now. So I guess in honor of football, we'll start with this one because I don't know if it's pronounced the same way or not. I've heard it go back and forth between people who are of the European descent on this one, but we knew him as Brett Favre, and he spelled his name Favre, Brett Favre, and it always puzzled me as a kid because it seemed like Favre, and that's how the people that I know who are from whether it be France or whatever have said Favre, but we know him as Brett Favre. But Favre Luba is a brand.
That's an interesting segue. I see what
Yes.
you did here.
Yes, Favre Luba is a brand that's been around apparently since 1737. Now I'm gonna take a moment here, and I don't know where watch brands get off putting these dates on stuff. I feel like it's like how rappers will claim they're from a certain area or that they've done X, Y, and Z, and like no, there's no credibility behind it at all. And then they
Yeah.
get outed, and they're like, "Oh, wait a minute." But I feel like it's the same thing. There's like all these brands that are like, "Oh yeah, we've been around since 1211," and you're like, "Are you sure about that?" And like, anyway, they're claiming 1737. They're reissuing a watch that's been around since 1964.
Hmm.
It's called the Deep Blue. It's a diver, if you couldn't have guessed. It is going to make some people absolutely bonkers with this date placement. I mean, it's a 4:30 date, but
I knew it was coming though.
it's a I don't even know how you describe this. It's a diagonal 4:30 date
Yeah.
in a circle.
But I
It's
think it's
just
how the
interesting.
original one was.
I
If
mean,
I'm
it
not
probably is.
mistaken.
It probably is, but
Let's go back to because they have a
somebody
historical picture on their
somebody's gonna
website.
have an aneurysm looking at this thing. Even though it's a decent looking
Yes.
watch, they're gonna be like,
So just so you know, the original one from 1964 had a 4:30 date with the number diagonal. So
maybe
it is
that's why we
on
haven't.
brand and true.
Maybe that's why we haven't heard about it since.
Oh man, that's rough. Oh no.
I kid. But so they've tried to bring this one back before
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So
because
I
there was a
mean,
renaissance and now a revival.
well, so yeah, so the way that this company happened, And they indicate this on their timeline on their website. So this is not anything that I'm making up or anything like that. But basically, the company, they say 1737 or whatever it is, and obviously it was not in a continuous operation for that time period. But eventually, getting into the quartz crisis, they even indicate on the website like they really got beat up in the quartz crisis, and eventually they had to sell the company. So in 1985 is kind of the last official time the original family owned the company. It changed hands a bunch of times in terms of ownership, and it becomes a zombie brand officially in 2016.
Right.
Now, they released a diving watch called the Raider Harpoon. It was a very funky kind of rotating disc and singular minute hand time indication, but it was marketed as like a diving watch and all these things. Very odd, very big. Like we're talking, over 45 millimeters. It had like a 53 lug to lug. Like it was a chunky, thick boy. But a lot of the Favre Lubra cases from back in the 60s and 70s were very bulky, beefy kind of cases. So it was kind of making sense for the history. 2017 and 2018, they released another kind of trio of watches, different complications. There was even one in there that did a mechanical depth gauge for diving.
That's cool.
And I think it was called the Depth-O-Matic or Depth-Matic, something like that. But it also had like a mechanical brain in the movement that like once you hit the deepest part of your dive, it would also manually record that. So like let's say you hit 50 meters and throughout your entire dive up until that point, that was the deepest you had gone, there would be a hand that would actually indicate 50 and keep it there. So even if you ascended a little bit to 35 meters, you knew based on your dive profile that the watch indicated that you had hit 50 meters at some point.
Wow.
So, I mean, that, in terms of the complexity for making watches, like that's kind of up there, but they were basically dormant between 2018 to like 2020 is kind of like the last time I heard any articles and things about them. And then boom, 24. So on their website, in terms of timeline, it goes from 2018 and jumps to 24. And then here is where we have the revival. So as you pointed out, we had the deep blue, but if you didn't catch it too, there's also a chrono diver collection.
Yes.
So that also is being debuted. And these were all basically launched at Geneva Watch Days.
And that is known as the Sea Sky for those who
The
are
Sea Sky.
keeping track.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I like this watch a lot.
Which one?
I think it looks really good.
Sea Sky or the Revival?
Both of them, both of them. So within the Deep Blue collection, if you're navigating the website, there's two different versions. There is the Deep Blue Revival, which is basically a recreation of the original Deep Blue from 1964. It's going to have, aluminum bezel. It's going to be 39 millimeter case, which was the original size. It's going to have the funky 430 date. It's going to be as close to an original 1964 Deep Blue as possible. Then they have the Deep Blue Renaissance versions. It's slightly larger at 40 mil, and they're going to be more
Modern
of
interpretation, right?
exactly
Yeah.
more of a modern interpretation on the vintage style. They're going to use ceramic bezels, things like that. So as far as I understand, what they're communicating in language here is all the Favre Luba pieces that are revivals or essentially recreations of the original. Renaissance versions will be more of a spiritual revival of it, but using modern technologies and modern materials. Is kind of the way I understand their marketing to be. And I think it's a good one. I think Revival's good. I think Renaissance is good. But these Sky Chiefs, man, like I'm kind of always been a fan and enamored with like 1970s like chrono divers. And this is kind of hitting. I'm
That
not
was an
gonna lie.
interesting period. It does remind me of that same generation as like the Nevada
Yeah,
chrono divers, right? The aviator sea diver.
yeah. Because you have to remember why. Do you know why chrono divers exist?
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
Is
So
it for
you
people
have to
who go out
remember.
of planes and into the water? That would be
No, no,
cool.
no. That would make sense. That would
I
make sense.
know. That's why I was like, all right, let me
But I mean, the whole idea behind a chronograph with I should say a diving watch with a chronograph is because when you think about this, skin diving or what would eventually become scuba diving later on, going from the late 50s into the 60s, it started out with very primitive means. You had a depth gauge, manual depth gauge you wear on your wrist, and you had a manual watch that you would track your dive time with. Using math and calculations, you would create a dive plan based on, okay, if I'm going to go this amount of depth for this amount of time, I can be underwater X amount of time. And I need to resurface at this point, right? Like you had to make all these calculations to dive. So if you did it wrong, you could die very easily. Okay. There was no dive computers. The first dive computers didn't come out until the very, very, very early to mid 1980s, and they were extremely primitive, gigantic brick things
Yeah.
that you could imagine, right? Nowadays, every diver wears a dive computer because it's the most conservative and safe way to dive, myself included. But I will still always have a manual watch to wear as well. But dive chronographs came out in the late 60s going into the 70s because it was a way to increase the types of time measurements you could make while doing a dive.
Oh, okay.
So it allowed you to time multiple things at one time. So with the biggest fundamental flaw with a diving bezel on a watch is that's only one singular time reference. So if you set your dive, let's say you want to go do a total dive for an hour, right? You're gonna start to descend beyond the surface. You're gonna set your bezel based on your minute hand, and you're gonna leave it there. Well, that's basically tracking your total dive time. If there's any point in time throughout your dive profile that you want to change or you want to go explore something that you didn't account for, you can't really reset your bezel because then you lose your starting point as to when you started your dive, right?
Right.
So diver chronographs came into effect and into popularity because it allowed divers to track multiple time references simultaneously. So what you could do is you could descend, start your chrono, let that run in the background and track your total dive time. And then during your diving profile, if let's say you want to explore a coral reef or something for 10 minutes, you could rotate your bezel to now track that. But your dive time is still being recorded by the chronograph, right? The
Huh.
same way that if you wanted to do a safety stop on your way up, obviously you're still underwater. Your dive time is still running on the chronograph, but you can use your bezel to calculate your 15, 10-minute, whatever safety stops you need to do to return to the surface correctly. So it was kind of the bridge gap between very primitive dive watches, which only had a singular function with the bezel, to what would become more advanced dive computers going into the 80s and most realistically in the 90s and to what we have today. So this is why divers chronographs came out in the late 60s, early 70s, because it was a transitional technology that made diving slightly safer.
It's pretty cool. I mean, everything sort of most things in watches are form of function,
Yeah.
but you never really know why, or where it came from. A
And
lot of
and
it seems
and
pretty
most people will
cheap.
never even give it another thought. They're like, this is kind of stupid. Why do I need a chronograph diver? Like I already have a dive bezel.
Shouldn't I not be pushing these anywhere near water?
Exactly, exactly. So it's kind of funny, but that's kind of the reason why this technology exists. So if you didn't know that, drop us a line. Let us know.
Now you know.
Now you know.
And yeah, the revival piece comes in somewhere around $2,600. The Sea Sky is somewhere around 46, I believe, because they're on francs. I'm kind of just guesstimating, but yeah, they're pretty neat. They're cool. And you said you think these are based off of Eterna movements?
I think so. It's kind of. I think I read that somewhere. I don't hold me to that. They specify what caliber it is on their website, but obviously it's not an in-house manufacturer caliber, so I don't know who's building it for them.
Right.
But they don't look like, based on the photos of the movement, they don't look like your typical Salida or Etta Fair. Like it's not your normal looking piece. The movement looks a little bit nicer decorated. It looks a little bit better finished than just your standard stuff. But I could be completely wrong.
All right. Tissot is putting out two new versions ish of the PRX that many people love so much. So we're getting a couple of gradient dial Powermatic 80, the 40 millimeter version. Pretty cool. One's sort of like a light blue to a dark bluish, and one's like a dark with purple. They're pretty neat looking.
Very wrist cheesy, that one.
Yeah, that one's very nice. But I think they're real cool looking, pretty sweet. But I don't know why they put them out at the same time as the next one, because that steals the show for me. These are cool. These are cool. But the next one they put out is a forged carbon
Yeah.
PRX Powermatic 80. And this is just boss. Every comment I've seen on these articles and stuff has been like, dude, yes.
It's awesome. I
It
mean, I'm
is.
not gonna undersell it. Like this watch is amazing. And for under $1,000,
For 995 for a forged carbon watch.
I mean, yeah. I mean, again, like not to undersell, but like 995, like $5 under $1,000. But the fact that we could do a forged carbon, or I should say, we could get a forged carbon
Correct.
watch of this design, and it's funky, it's cool, it's kind of murdered out in the black on black color scheme. You're getting an awesome watch, Powermatic 80. Everyone knows this caliber. This has been powering the PRXs basically since the beginning. This is sick. I mean, on rubber, like even more sick.
Yep.
You know what I
Super
mean? Like,
integrated.
dude, it's hella nice. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's hella nice. I kind of want one.
Yeah, but I think they should have dropped these things separate. I think they could have done a few more sales on the gradient. But now, if you're gonna have to choose, I think everybody's taking the carbon, you know?
I mean, yeah, yeah. And Tiso, maybe Tiso's gonna start playing around with more carbon.
That'd be
We
cool.
have we had the Citadel from last year. They came out in the forged carbon, kind
Oh,
of
I
that
remember that.
regatta
Yeah.
sport watch, right? And that was kind of a
That was a
funky.
neat watch.
It was a funky watch. It was like a '70s design in forged carbon. But this is, I think, a design that resonates with everyone. Like if you're gonna go for a murdered out black watch, why not this one? You know what I mean? Like it's a PRX. It's got 1,000 strap options that you can buy aftermarket or from Tissot now as well. D-Lugs really cornered the market on this, to be honest
Yep.
with you, for
They
the
sure did.
PRXs. But like this is a good looking watch. It's going to be lighter than air, amazing caliber inside, and price point is nuts. So, like I was telling you off air, like this makes a Doxa carbon watch like seem unreasonably expensive
Yeah, even though
by
you're like, yeah, that's
comparison.
pretty reasonable.
It's like, I mean, like at 3 grand for a forged carbon watch is like not a lot of money. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not that crazy. This is even better than that. So
It's pretty sweet.
it's nuts. I love it. I want one. Maybe Santa will bring me one.
Yes, yes. From there, I'll go to another watch that Santa's not going to bring me. That's also crazily priced and equally gorgeous, in a complete opposite direction.
Yes, yes.
So, Fred Constant, or as some might know them as Frederic Constant, have put out a malachite dial classic moon phase date limited edition. It
Oh,
is a absolute beauty of a watch,
it's it
but
slaps.
it's 30,000 euros.
Yeah, so I did the US conversion. It's about $33,000 if they truly honor the price conversions. Because sometimes brands will kind of like under
Yeah, I've noticed
price
that.
it.
That's why
They'll be like,
sometimes I'll
oh, it's
guesstimate.
29,000 euros. We'll do it like 30,000. Like, okay,
Yeah, I've seen that.
yeah. So if they keep it to exact prices based on conversion, it's just over $33,000 US. But man, this watch.
Yeah, like, am I trying to buy that? No, but like this watch is really good looking. Like the
I
dial
mean,
is
and to think of it this way, it's an LE. It's an LE.
of like 36, I think.
36 pieces ever made. Solid white gold with a malachite dial, in-house manufacturer Moonface. Like to know that I could have a watch with only other 36 other people in the world, like why not? And realistically, at $30,000, is it a little high for a Frederic Constant? Yeah. I mean, technically, that's what a Moonshine Gold Speedmaster costs on strap,
Hmm.
about 30 grand. But man, this watch is beautiful.
I mean, you get a look at that malachite dial and you're like, God damn,
It's
right? And
sick.
the contrast with the moon phase, the red numbering on the 31 just
Yeah.
sticks out. Like the white looks great against it. Everything about this watch is dope. The crown is amazing. The case is
Yeah.
beautiful. Like,
And I really love the Frederick Constant movements. Like I just love the way that they look because they're just so simple, but so just well executed in their simplicity. And again, I know that they're only making so many and things like that, whatever. But it's just good. And it's a 3 day power reserve. 72 hours. It's pretty sick. It's beautiful. But like I told you earlier, also off air, I don't know if you caught that $15,000 tourbillon. I think I got on the
Yeah.
Frederick Constant
Yep.
website too. I was like, man, well, if I can't swing 30, maybe I'll just have to split it and go 15, get a tourbillon.
I can't remember. Were they the ones who did like the $10,000 perpetual calendar, or was that like
Yes.
Bomb and Mercier or somebody?
Oh, no, maybe it was bomb.
I
Maybe it was
can't
bomb.
remember, but
Yeah. I think it was bomb
it
actually.
might have been.
But I mean, to do a $15,000 tourbillon though, I mean, and it's not an ugly watch. That's the other thing too. That tourbillon is pretty sick. So I'm just like, maybe another life, bro. We'll just get more money and we'll just start buying some Fred Constants.
Fred Constant. I was telling you, I was like, we should just get them as a sponsor.
I know.
Brought to you by Fred Constant.
Fred from the block. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about them so many times. We're probably the only podcast that ever talks about Frederic Constant. Remember when they came out with that fully silicon escapement? It's like the most bananas technology ever. And they're like, yeah, we made it. And then everyone's like, how?
Nobody bats an eye.
Nobody cares. I'm like, this is ridiculous. These guys are nuts, dude. Like they're like vibrates. I'm like, I don't even understand it. But hey, you know what? Frederic Constant, right? They just keep doing what they're gonna do. So there you go.
They live up to the name. They are constant and consistent. All right. Seiko brought back the Marine Master 300. You got a black one, you got a white one. As expected, they're pretty robust and chonky.
Yeah, but they're not that bad. They're
no,
not the
not as
size specs are not that
not
bad.
as hefty as the older model. Remember
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other ones were big. They were
They
big
were
boys.
thick, yeah.
These ones are like 43 by about 13 and a half. Not horrible. They have these 8L movements in them now, 50-hour power reserve. And not for the Marine Master line, not insanely priced. I mean, these are $2,900. I know the other Marine Masters were in that range.
Yeah.
But they're neat. They're not bad looking. 430 dates are apparently back because everybody's doing them now again. Even
And
after all the crap.
this one's invertedly diagonal the opposite.
Right. So again, more aneurysms occurring as this is airing. But
yeah.
But yeah, not a bad looking watch, but perhaps not one that I'm gonna go running after. But I think it's cool. I think the bracelet looks good. They're not bad. Black, white, nothing insane. But I think it's
yeah,
kind of
it's nothing crazy. It's nothing, it's pretty run of the mill for what they're doing. I think it's a nice revival to bring it back.
yeah.
Because everyone loves a Marine Master name. That certainly carries a lot of weight in Sego communities for sure. I mean, to not have one for a while was kind of a weird
It was
thing.
weird.
But I just hate that they didn't bring back the traffic light secondhand.
Yes. I was so happy when they put that on the Willard revivals.
Yeah.
And they've been doing it on
Because
certain
that
ones.
was on the watches originally, right?
Right.
Am
And
I mistaken?
even the 200s they put it on.
Yeah.
So
why not this
yeah,
one?
I don't get it, but
It's so much more of a simplified thing. And it was honestly like until right before I said that statement, like I just noticed it and now I can't unsee it because I mean that was one of the things that all of the Marine Masters that I remember used to have. Like that was the signifier was the traffic light secondhand. And now I'm like, well, it just seems maybe too pedestrian.
yeah, I was about to say it does bring a surprising amount of personality for such a little thing
Yeah.
to an otherwise pretty bland watch.
But I mean that, if you think about this as kind of like a case study on Seiko, one of the things that they've done so well over the years is make very esoteric shapes, very innocuous designs
Yeah.
really special. And they are signifiers for, designs, right? Like it become the watch itself becomes associated with that respective design. And it's kind of hard to overlook that, to make that miss, I think. But that's just me.
No, I
What
agree
do
with
I
you.
know?
I do. I do. All right. On to what I was alluding to before. Breitling is putting out a Chronomat NFL Team Edition collection. I think sometimes you have to be careful what you ask for, Schmitty, because we have been saying for a hot minute, what is Breitling up to? Haven't heard much from him recently. I wonder what they got up their sleeve. And this is what it was.
I
So
had a guy.
you can now get a team color edition with a logo in one of the subdials of your Chronomat. If you are a fan of the National Football League, which is a sport that is only played in the United States, except for the few games in Brazil, Mexico, or the UK.
Hey, they're expanding. Okay, they're going more and more places these days. I mean, thankfully, each one of these models is only going to be 106 pieces, which again is also, or it's 104 pieces. I'm sorry, which is also just like a weird number.
Apparently, it's the 104th anniversary of the NFL, but what a weird year to pick.
Yeah, like why not wait till next year and do 105? Like I don't, or do this 4 years ago and do 100 year. Like it just seems very odd.
They
Um,
just thought it up and they're like, oh, well, let's get it out. We'll get it out.
yeah,
We'll see what happens.
that's honestly 100% what I think happened. They had some NFL players that they have as ambassadors and some connections, and they're like, guys, we're doing an NFL watch, and they teased us when they did the Super Bowl watch last year.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Or I guess at the beginning of this year, right? So they teased us with the Super Bowl watch, which I thought was also kind of like a weird, like, we're doing a solid gold chronomat Super Bowl edition. I'm like, this is weird, and here I am talking about it 8 months later with team themed edition watches for every single team.
Look, man, as much as I enjoy the Miami Dolphins colorway, I do not want a chronomat with the Miami
What you
Dolphins.
don't you want the Dan Marino chrono?
The laces out special.
Laces out special? Laces out, Dan. Laces out, Dan.
These are $8,800 for rubber,
92 on bracelet.
92 on rouleau
And
bracelet.
and here's the thing: some of the watches only come on bracelet, some of them only come on rouleau. They don't come on the other. I'm sorry, on rubber. But I guess they call it now the rouleau rubber. If you did not know that,
Oh, that's
um,
cute.
yeah, it's a rouleau themed rubber. But yeah, so some of them only come on bracelet, and the others only come on the rouleau rubber. So, obviously you can probably mix and match if you wanted to, but you will be buying a new bracelet or a new rubber strap. Because like I was looking at the Cowboys one, which unfortunately is my team. I like the design, but I'm like, oh, it's only on the rubber strap. But I'm like, I'm kind of okay with that because it looks cool. It looks cooler that way. But they did a black rubber strap. Like, how do you do? Like, why not navy? Like, who thought this through? Nobody. They're like, all right, guys, we're just gonna do some hands change and we're doing a dial change and we're just gonna keep it moving. Like, and then I was like, aren't the Cowboys affiliated with Hublot? It's like this seems like a conflict of interest.
Yeah, things get a little dicey in there, don't they? With
It's like,
ambassadorships and
is this handled directly with the NFL, or is this like, does the NFL have the ability to license out logos for other teams? I don't know. I don't know how this works. And
yeah.
that's the other thing too, is like, did all of the teams approve this?
Do they
It
get a
seemed like
hit? Do they get a say? Is
I
probably
was
the
like,
better
were they
question.
told that this is happening or what? I'm just like, I mean, I get it, but I really don't get it.
Like I
I
like the
just,
chronomat. It's just I don't know.
what are
They're
they, bro? What are
expensive
they
and this is tech.
doing? What are they doing?
That's more of what it is. It's you don't have anything better to do over there.
Like, is NFL football secretly George Kern's like unspoken passion? Like I don't understand.
Him and Roger Goodell are like old school bros. They
Just and then the other thing too for me that is kind of annoying is I hate that they just like, all right, we're just gonna slap the logo on the sub dial and call it a day. Like, why couldn't you have done the team colors and then put the logo of the team on the back?
yeah. That's what I would have done.
Subtle instead of the NFL shield. I'm like, oh
Right, so you don't
god.
have to feel weird wearing it during the off season.
Hey, thank you, thank you.
Like, don't get me wrong, I'll still wear like a Giants t-shirt in the off season, but you're not gonna see me wearing my jersey out on the street in the off season. Like that feels a little weird.
You sure you're not?
It's just odd. I
Yeah, bro. I'm how
I don't
far
know.
the mighty have fallen.
It's just what a strange marriage, I guess. And they're just all over the map. Like they've got some good ambassadors, and then they've got some random ambassadors.
But
You know,
the other
like
thing, but the other reality that I keep thinking about this from a business perspective, how many NFL football fans are going to go out and spend close to $9,000 on a team themed Breitling watch?
you got me.
I mean, let's look at the average, educational prowess of the normal Bills fan. Okay, like you think they're over here? They're spending
Oh,
their money on tables.
I was gonna
Okay,
say you're talking about people who throw each other through tables. Is what
I
you
was
know they
like,
got to save
they're
up money
spending their money on
for
plastic
lumber.
tables you
Yeah,
buy at Costco, and these dudes are not going to run out and buy a $9,000 chronomat with the Buffalo Bills look. I mean, and maybe they will. Maybe I'm just completely off base here, but I don't think that I am. It doesn't make sense to me. These are two things that really don't compute. And again, the way that they did the color flips and just the logos, like I know this was a big project because you're doing a watch specifically for each team, but I mean, it just seems like a very uninspired collaboration because you're just doing like, all right, here's the primary color for the team, and we'll do that for the dial. This is the auxiliary color for the team. We'll do that for the chronograph hands and the chrono second hand. The 9 o'clock subdial, slap on the logo. Like next, like it just seems so contrived and just very generic.
it's weird. It's weird, and especially because I feel like you could have rolled this out. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he still is, but I think Trevor Lawrence was on their list. He's the QB for the Jaguars. I
Okay.
think he was an ambassador of theirs. I don't know if he still is, but like you could have at least rolled it out with the Jaguars colors, which are kind of it's like a sort of a teal with like a gold and black. Like you could have made an interesting chronomat
Yeah.
out of it and sort of just rolled that out without all the gaudy logos and stuff and be like, oh, this is the Trevor Lawrence edition or whatever. Like it's got the Jaguars colors, we get it. Okay. And then you could have been like, oh, we're gonna do this for teams now too. But like
Yeah.
again, you didn't have to do all the gaudy stuff on the front. You could put it on the back, put it
And then what happens when one of these teams changes cities?
or forget cities. They change their uniforms every like 3 years. The Eagles change their shade of green like every year and a half. It's like going to be outdated quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if this
Uh,
was out in the late 90s, you would have had, or you would have had the Houston Oilers
yeah, yeah,
become the
yeah.
Tennessee Titans,
Yeah.
you know? So I don't
That's
know.
I mean that's what I'm thinking because I've heard those rumors about the Chiefs getting kicked out of their own city. Have you heard about this?
No, but I mean, for them
It's
to
because,
leave KC on with the high they're on would be insane
but it's because they want to build them a new stadium, but they're forcing all the cost of the stadium construction on
on the
the on the
taxpayers.
on the taxpayers.
Uh,
And the taxpayers are like, we don't want a new stadium if it's going to cost us X amount of money in taxes. And the team is like, well, if you don't pay it, we're out. Like, so it's like that's a very real possibility, apparently. So
Yeah, that
who
could get
knows?
interesting. Sometimes they move to like a nearby city and they'll still be Kansas City, quote unquote, but
But but they were talking about like cities like in Texas or like other
that would
places.
be the biggest L of all time with the run that they're on, with
Yeah.
the current personnel that they have.
I mean, I completely agree.
That would
I
be
completely agree.
abysmal to lose a team on top.
I mean, it almost as abysmal as the design of these watches.
Very close. It would be neck and neck for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, geez. What are you gonna do?
but the the fervor that these watches inspire sort of got me to where I was going for the episode theme that I wanted to do today. And it had to do with watches that it reminded me of a lot of things that people will nitpick about watches, certain tropes, certain brands, certain models, lines, whatever you call them, attributes that people absolutely hate. And we harp on them, your 430 dates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some people hate, they think two tone is gaudy or whatever. So there's a million different things we've talked about on the show and that you'll see. You go on the forums, you go on Hodinky comment section, wherever, social media.
Ugh. Houdinki's is the worst.
I like to read them because you get a good mix of people who are
Oh
just
God.
completely taking the piss, and then other people who are agreeing with them, even though they're making like a troll comment that's like supposed to be tongue in cheek, and the people are like, "Oh yeah, this is such a value at 60,000," and they're like, "No, I wasn't serious." And they're like, "Wait a minute, what?" Like it just goes back and forth, and people are like, "You didn't get it." It's pretty fun, but regardless, I wanted to pick some watches that I enjoy that people hate, or
Mm,
that I think people would hate.
okay.
Because every once in a while I find myself, you go down the rabbit hole, especially late at night, right? You're sitting on the couch, the kids are asleep. You're like, you got the Sunday scaries or whatever, and you're just like, I'm just gonna cruising through the watches, what's out there. What have I missed? What am I missing in my life? Right? And
Yeah.
you're kind of going through and you're like, man, this brand, I don't really like this brand. This brand kind of sucks. Everybody kind of hates on it. Oh, wait a minute. That's kind of nice. Wait a minute. And you're like, could I be this guy? Could I possibly purchase this watch and defy defy the odds, defy my own misgivings? I don't know. Like what could I be this person? And I've kind of wrestled with that from time to time where I'm like, maybe I could buy from this brand. Maybe I don't care what people would say about me.
Maybe I am this guy.
Maybe I am this guy. Maybe I could bring it to the light side.
Yeah. So what do you
but
got?
but
What's your
anyways,
first pick?
well, I'm gonna throw mine out there for this one out there first because I don't want you to take it because I know where you're headed already, Mister.
No, you
Um,
don't.
yeah, I have an inkling, my friend. So I'm going to start off with an Omega Speedmaster. People are going to say, "What do you mean? Nobody hates the Speedmaster. It's an iconic
Are you serious?
watch. It's an iconic watch." But
No, you did not.
this is a 39 millimeter Speedmaster, right? It's not the Moonwatch, right? It's not all the provenance and all that other stuff. So this is now that you can go a couple ways with this one. I personally like this one the best, even though it's like 12 thou. It's the 18K version of this 39 millimeter Speedmaster automatic. So it's the 3611.10.89, and it's got a champagne dial. It's all gold. They also make a two tone version of this. That is the 3311.10. I've always liked this watch. I mean, it's for a chronograph. For those who don't know, it's sort of the vertical alignment, not the horizontal of the subdials. So you're getting a 12.9.6 subdial alignment. But to me, this is just a cool watch. And obviously at 39, it fits a little better for most folks that are kind of in between or smaller wrists. I know it's an automatic, which is for some people sacrilege on the Speedmaster spectrum.
Yeah, get over it.
But for a yellow gold Speedmaster at 12 grand, it really not horrible. And even more reasonable if you're looking at the two tone, it's somewhere in like the twos.
Yeah. Yeah.
The newer two tone Speedmasters are what, 12, something like that, somewhere in there.
No,
14?
the new current Moonwatch two tone is 18.1.
18. Okay, I knew it was in the teens there somewhere. So to get something two tone from this brand in this vein, I think is not that bad in the 2000s range. Granted, these are used and they're kind
Yeah,
of old,
sure.
but still, I think they're pretty pimp. And the gold one to me is awesome, to be honest. But I find people have it's not the moon watch. It's it's sacrilegious because it's not manual wind,
Yeah.
right? It's got all the things that I guess are sort of charming and old school about the renditions everybody loves, and even this one is sapphire. Everybody loves the Hezzies, right? Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, we love a good Hezzy boy. It's been a while, Hezzy boys, but people are like, oh, that's not a man's moon watch. That's it's like a redheaded stepchild. But
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
always liked these ones. I like the triple dates. I like these ones. There's a lot of offshoot Speedmasters, and even if you don't like you're not such a gold person, they have the Schumacher edition,
Yep.
which is pretty pimp.
Yeah.
I've always liked that one a lot. So I think there's some kind of under the radar value in these that maybe they don't get the credit they deserve. But I wanted to get this one out of the box first, just in case you had this one, so you could put that one on the back burner and maybe pivot off that. I would be surprised if you didn't, because that's just how this goes. Because we don't share beforehand because we like the element of surprise and everything. But yeah,
I will say this would have never been on my radar, but I'm happy it's on yours because leads me to segue into something else, and not only just one of the picks that I have, but just in general, I think that right now, and this is my call, this is my crystal ball moment.
Okay.
I think the late 80s to early 90s Omegas are going to be the next big thing.
All right.
There's so much nuance. There's so many funky pieces. There's so many different weird designs, especially stuff that came out of the Asian market, which a lot of these 39 Speedmasters came from.
Yeah.
They were all from JDM Asian market. And there's so many good stuff in the catalog that Omega produced between the late 80s and early 90s that is so slept on. Nobody knows it's out there. And the prices for them are absolutely insane. Like there's a watch that I'll talk with you about off air because I don't want to put it on the podcast. I
Oh,
don't
I
want
see.
anybody to
I
find it
see. I see. I see.
because the price is too good and the watch is too nuts and what's inside of it is even more insane. And it's just so good. Like I need to have this watch. Like and I think you should probably get one too just to say you had it. But it's just there's so many good things from Mark 40s to Schumachers to Legend Speedies, triple calendars, all of these things that they did. There's a lot in there and there's a lot to unpack and there's so much variance. And like you said, you're finding some of these models at, $1,500, $2,000. You can't even buy an Oris for $2,000 these
Oh,
days.
sir.
And you can buy an Omega secondhand and then spend maybe a grand servicing it and you get a $3,000 watch that's going to cost more than that years down the road. That to me is very cool. And I think that there's a lot of cool stuff to discover. A buddy of mine that we were talking about these Speedmasters with yesterday, he sent me a picture of a JDM only salmon dial 39 mil Speedmaster. Apparently, Omega made a salmon dial Speedmaster in 39 millimeters for the Japanese market. I didn't even
Okay.
know this watch existed. And he's like, I kind of want it. I was like, yeah, you should just buy it now because if anybody else finds out about this, it's gone. like, and sorry, buddy, I may have blown your secret over here, but it's like things like this are very cool and they're totally underappreciated, underrated. And you're right, a lot of people don't like them because they think that they're kitschy, they think that they're weird, and they should really reevaluate what they're doing because there's a lot of variance here. That's awesome.
But hey, as with everything, more for us.
More for us, baby.
It's
More for
fun.
us. Well, I mean, since you started off with the Speedmaster, I guess I should also start off with the Speedmaster. I'm gonna do the Speedmaster X33.
That's a good one. I,
I absolutely love this watch,
the
and I
nerds
will,
love it, but the non-nerds are like, "What the heck? Like, I don't want this. This is not, this isn't
dude.
this isn't
Even
Tom Hanks."
yeah, but even the nerds of people that I've met, when you talk about an X33, like, why the hell would I ever buy this watch? Like, you can't set it; it's impossible, and that's really the biggest reservation about this piece is that it's very difficult to set. And for both generations, the current X33 you'll find in the boutiques today, or even like Gen 1, Gen 2, kind of the military X33s that came out in the late 90s going into the 2000s, both of them are very easy to manipulate once you know how to do the functions. But I mean, you're talking thermal compensated quartz movement. It's accurate to like plus or minus 0.77 seconds a month or something like that. Like this is stupid accuracy. It's thermal compensated, so it's completely ineffective by temperature fluctuations between extreme hot, extreme cold, full titanium case, LCD screen, still loomed hands and markers. You can do chronograph, stopwatch, alarm functions, countdown timers, mission elapsed time, phase elapsed time if you're actually doing pilot or astronaut things if you need to. I mean, this is literally the coolest freaking watch on planet Earth. But the biggest reservation is it's hard to set from the outside perspective. Once you figure it out, it's quite easy. And I would honestly argue it's way more user friendly than an aerospace by far.
Bro,
By
not for
far.
nothing. Have you ever seen a normie try to set a G Shock?
I mean, yeah, right? I mean, like even me, man. Like sometimes when I had to go to my watch box and grab a G Shock because I'm gonna go do something active, or I'm going to a place where if someone wants to steal my watch, well, they take my $80 G Shock, like not a big deal. Someone's got to go. I go to my box and I pick them up. I'm like, crap, I'm an hour behind or an hour ahead. And like, I can spend a good 5 minutes remembering, okay, which movement is this one? Which is it mode first? Or like, like which button do I press and hold to initiate the functions? You know what I mean? So even for me, as a seasoned collector, somebody who's had multiple of these pieces, like that is a difficult watch to set sometimes. But the X33, I love playing with it every time I get an opportunity to see one. I have a couple collector buddies that own them, and they're just awesome. It's totally an underrated watch, and they go for about three so grand for the first gen, second gens, and like about 4 grand or so for the current gen of what you'll find. And any of those will be amazing for you to own. They're fantastic
And now
pieces.
you can get a Mars watch.
And now you can get the Mars one. Although I will say this, objectively, the Mars one is kind of pointless. No, I mean,
But that's
realistically,
listen, that's what makes this hobby fun. Pointless is like the name of the game.
I mean, it's true, but it's funny because like I was looking up some of the instructions on like how to set the Mars timer, and the funny thing about the Mars timer is you can only set the time on Mars relative to a specific GPS coordinate. Because I guess the way that Martian time is calculated, there's no time zones. It's based on GPS positioning. So like unless you want to know, Martian time, you have to know a specific GPS coordinate system, which you have to input into the watch. So
Right.
you can like if you wanted to know Martian time relative to Earth, you could for like one singular rock formation on Mars at only that time interval. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, this is actually quite pointless. But the reason why it was developed that way is because ESA, which is the European Space Agency, uses it to track Martian Perseverance and Opportunity rovers when they were on the surface,
Right.
and they would track their time based on their GPS coordinates for the
That makes
rover,
perfect
which
sense.
makes sense. But I'm like, I'm not a ESA scientist slash astronaut tracking rover positions. You know what I mean? So it's like it's kind of stupid for me. But it's fun. It's whatever. And you're right. This hobby it doesn't really need to make sense. It just is what it is.
No, pointless is 100% the name of the game.
Yes. Yes. What's your second?
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to segue off your somewhat segue here because you did. I'm going to go with one, and I'm not going to lie to you. I've almost bought this watch like 10 times, and I always kind of just peel back, and I'm always like, yeah. It's tough because once you get up into certain price ranges, there's a lot of options and things like that, and that's sort of where I've always kind of bailed on it. But I've always had a thing for the 34 millimeter salmon dial Air King.
Okay,
Right
that's a
now,
solid pick.
first of all, it's got a bunch of things going against it. 34 millimeters, right? Plenty
Nah.
of dudes with small PBs who get very insecure about that type of thing.
Yeah.
Salmon dial, again,
Yeah.
small PPs, anything that resembles pink, I'm out. I hate it. Even though this is somewhat of like more of a copper
It's a copper for
situation,
sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But everybody knows it is like the salmon, so it is what it is. Air King, although once kind of stood for something, now it's kind of just a tacky ass watch. The more
Yeah.
recent iterations,
Yeah.
I thought these ones are pretty cool. They have sort of like the Explorer dial on them. That
Yeah.
was always kind of neat. But I always thought it was just a neat little package. It was sort of bare bones. It was sort of reminiscent of that time that I like the Rolex periods that I really really enjoy, and
Yeah.
that's why I was like, man. And these were always very reasonably priced. These were always like 3,000 ish.
Yeah.
So you could always get them at a good price. I mean, they went up for a while and they've kind of gone up and down or whatever.
I mean, for me, dude, this is a home run hit, especially with the engine turn bezel, which
Yeah,
I love.
right.
I love that one, and I love the fact that this is a precision movement.
It is.
Do you know the difference?
I do not, but I know it says precision on the dial.
Yeah. So as far as I understand, and somebody can correct me if I'm way off base here, but what I've always heard about the precision movements is they were not chronometer certified. Because you'll notice the dial doesn't say superlative chronometer officially certified. It
Right.
just says precision. So these are basically fine-tuned movements, but they were never cost tested.
So maybe that's how they were able to the costs were able to be relatively
Correct.
cheap. Is that one less thing on there that's fancy schmancy, bells and
Yeah,
whistles, et cetera, and now you get something in a little bit more of a reasonable package.
correct.
But I've always liked it. And like you said, you can get the smooth bezel, you can get the engine turn bezel, would pick your poison there. But again,
It's a good watch. It's a good
it's
looking watch.
it's a lot like the turnograph you brought up not that long ago
Yeah.
with the engine turning of the bezel and everything. Like it's a cool era of Rolex that I wish we could harken back to at some point, and it might come back. Like that might
It
come back
but
into vogue.
it'll never come back in this way though.
I know
It'll never
that's
come
what's
back in this way.
depressing.
It'll be a riff of something that's going to be exorbitantly expensive in precious metal that's going to make us all wish we had that piece in steel from 30 years prior. That's the thing that pisses me off. Is this generation of Rolex, like the Air Kings that I've talked about with you, or the turnographs that I talked about with you before on other episodes. Like that generation of Rolex, that legacy, that history is long dead. Unfortunately, you know. But this is the type of stuff, bro, that like you just need to buy this watch because eventually people are going to get turned back onto it and then it's going to be unobtainable again. You know what I mean? Like the same thing with like the Oyster Perpetual 39s that came out in grape and the navy blue with electric lime green
Yep, I remember
like
that.
those are watches that were very cool for a very short period of time and then they were gone. I know the other sister watch to this one was the what was it? The electric blue. There's like an electric blue Air King Precision, I think, too, in
Right.
34 millimeter. Like that would be another one that would be like, this is a cool timepiece. It's got a pseudo Explorer dial. It's not an Explorer. It's not a chronometer. It's 34 millimeters instead of 36. But it is just weird enough that I would love to have it in my collection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just makes me sad because this is when Rolex really did cool stuff, and they did it low key cool. Like they're like, yeah, we know we're not going to do a whole bunch of salmon dial, Air Kings because let's be honest, they're not going to sell that well. But why not just do it for a little bit? And they did it, and then they're like, it's gone. Like
But
if
this
I
and
if you
this
have the
is
funds, bro, just go buy one. Like
but this is what I'm always talking about when I'm always saying like I wish people would bring the interesting stuff to the meetups as opposed to like just what's in vogue now
yeah,
because like you could roll up
you're
on
never going
people
to see this at a meetup. That's
if
the problem.
if you rolled up to somebody with this like who just got into the hobby and is only familiar with contemporary stuff,
They're going to be like, what are you
they'd be
doing?
like this can't be real, right?
Yeah,
This is what like a dial swap or like something cute.
yeah.
That's what I like about it. Is it's so kind of out
Well,
there.
it makes you second guess everything that you thought you knew. But that's the kind of stuff that, for people like us that have been in the industry for long enough that we've been around so long, we've forgotten so much. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and some of these young bloods that come in here, they have no idea that this stuff even exists. But that's also what I'm saying. Like, this is the kind of stuff you got to buy now because if anything turns, all of a sudden, this is the stuff that people start looking for 5 to 10 years from now.
It is. It is. You're right
I
about
mean,
that.
again, we talked about it before. If you remember, Paul Newman Daytonas were commercial failures. It wasn't until collectors in the '90s started scooping up these watches and were like, "Oh, these are kind of rare. They only produce so many. Nobody bought them because they weren't chronometers." These stories happened because they were the weird, funky, esoteric pieces, and because they were weird and esoteric, they sold less numbers of them, which in turn made them more rare. And then when people started to discover the value behind them, that's when they started exploding.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's kind of what leads me in, as a perfect segue into my watch.
Wow. Look at this.
Uh,
Look
we're just
at this.
piggybacking right off of each other.
If
Um,
you segue me into my last watch, I will be astonished. I don't think it's possible, but we'll see.
so I didn't want to jump into this one. I was trying to save it for last, but this is kind of more of an appropriate segue. This is a watch that I personally own. I get compliments on it everywhere I go. Nobody I know owns one. Everyone likes the idea of them, but they will never go out and actively pursue buying one. And it's the Omega Constellation
It's the
Globemaster.
Invicta Joker. No.
Yes, the Invicta Joker. No, the Constellation Globemaster. This was a watch that when it was announced at Baselworld in 2015, I remember seeing the press release on it, and I knew right away I absolutely had to have it. It was a watch that debuted Omega's new at that time master chronometer technology. It was the first watch to ever have the master chronometer certification. And I remember I got into an Instagram beef with Andrew McCutcheon from Time and Tide.
Oh, the new guy with the sign. If you haven't
Yes,
noticed.
yes, this the guy with the sign. Yeah, apparently. So I got in a beef with him on Instagram because he completely glossed over in all of his articles about the master chronometer certification. I'm like, this is revolutionary. Like nobody has it. But he's like, yeah, but Rolex has superlative chronometer certification, which they coincidentally also released that year in 2015. That's why this watch is so memorable to me. I'm like, yeah, but this is anti-magnetic and that one is not. And Rolex has been printing superlative chronometer on their dials for like 30 years. And now all of a sudden the certification means something. Like that's kind of weird marketing to me. Anyway, doesn't matter. Long story short, this is a watch that really got a lot of press time at Basel. People were very excited about it, but the product took too long to bring to market. And so a lot of the initial fanfare and hype really kind of died out. But I knew I wanted to get one. And ever since then, even when I sold Omega back then, even people that I work with today that are still, ADs for Omega, they're like, we don't sell a Globemaster, but maybe one or two a year.
Yeah.
Like it's such a slow mover for Omega, but it's such a phenomenal timepiece. And I absolutely love this watch. The pie pen dial, the sunray finishing. I have the blue version. I alternate between the bracelet and the blue alligator strap. And every time I wear this watch, people will stop me and ask me what watch it is because they've never seen it. And I've walked into countless, Omega showrooms because again, I always try to stop in watch stores when I'm traveling, things like that. And I've stopped into people that carry Omega who've never seen this watch in person. Like, how crazy is that? Like, an AD has never seen the watch that you're wearing, and it is a current collection piece.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Isn't that nuts? So, like, how many of these are really out there? I cannot imagine that many. And this, I think, is one of those watches because for me, it's indicative of a technological change, not only for Omega, but for the entirety of the industry. I mean, now Tudor's making master chronometer certified movements. There's rumors that I've heard that Breitling is developing a master chronometer Navitimer. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've heard that somewhere from relatively credible sources. So we'll see if that's the case. But regardless if it is or if it's not, the fact is that this company did it in 2015 with this watch, and collectors today don't even know that that was the case, which blows my mind. And it's a cool watch. It's a very, very cool watch. So go get one if you like it. I love the watch. No regrets.
Well, you know how I feel about the time period that these came from originally. Like,
Yeah.
the old Globe Masters, and like you said, pie pans and stuff. I'm a sucker for all that. So that's things like that are always up my alley. I absolutely adore the vintage ones. And the newer ones, again, I think if you rolled up to a meetup with this and showed it to people, they would be like, Omega makes this. Like,
Yeah.
I know Seamaster, I know Speedmaster.
It's antithetical Omega.
That's what I
It's
mean.
completely antithetical to what people know about the
I
brand.
mean, even if you know Railmaster and things like that, you'd still be like, wait a minute, this I know Aquaterra, this doesn't look anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, you're right. And that's always the response that I get from people. Wait, when was this made? I'm like, it's still made now. Like I've never seen this watch. I'm like, then you haven't been paying attention because you've been consuming too much Diver 300 meter and too much Moonwatch. Like you gotta,
Well,
and
that's
that's
the problem. Is that for a while the industry was all Speedmaster versus Daytona, 300-meter versus sub, and
yeah,
that's all you were fed. It was stuffed
yeah,
down your throat for probably
forever.
like 4 years there. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
you were just like, how much of this could I take? But yet every time a new iteration came out or something was adjusted, it was, well, let's revisit this. And you're like, God damn it. Like,
yeah. Every time there's a lull in the media, they're like, let's go back to Omega versus Rolex. I'm like,
let's revisit
Jesus Lord.
and reassess our same exact thing where we always say, oh, well, you know what? The Omega really has some nice specs, but Rolex. And that was
Rolex.
always
Yeah.
every friggin' article they made was that.
You
It was
you
that.
said it exactly right. Omega's really killing the game these days, but Rolex is Rolex. I'm like,
And you were
what?
just like, okay, like,
I
all
love
right,
circular arguments. It's fine.
but it left the door open for the next one. That's what it was. So
Yeah. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? It's okay though. I mean, it just means that more for us,
that's what I'm saying. More
right?
for
Like
me.
it's just more for us. It just means that there's more pieces to collect and consume down the road that maybe people will have to spend 4 times more money on 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And that's what I'm hedging my bet on. So We'll see.
Well, since you ended off with Globe, no, I'm totally kidding. I don't have a segue for this one at all. Not even in the slightest. So this one is more of a, I guess, pick and brand name overall, but one specific model that has caught my eye for a hot minute now is it's a Bell and Ross. I've brought up Bell and Ross on the show before.
Ooh.
Something about them sits with me. I think it's just that they make a unique design. It's very, very, very much their own. A Bell and Ross when you see one, and this is no different. So it's a diver. It's the let me get a hold on. It's one of the BRO3s, and it's a black ceramic insert, and it's got almost like a mint dial.
Oh, isn't this the yes
I'm
steel though case, right?
Yeah, it's a steel case. It's black though, and it's got a black ceramic insert. It's pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Dude,
It's a full loom. It's got like a 90 letter serial number here. It's the BR03A dash D dash LM dash CE slash SRB. And I'm sure that has to do with ceramic, full loom, all that stuff,
yeah,
because it is a full loom watch, which, as you know, we both like. But the color's super awesome. They have a very nice execution of the 430 date, which I really like. I like their big indices, their big handsets. Their wrist presence is pretty awesome. It's
yeah.
a style of watch, although it's become sort of ubiquitous among watch heads. You don't see them very often at all.
I don't see them anymore, to be honest with you. I really
And
don't.
the loom, if you see the loom, it is bright blue, but it's like it's a darker shade. It's not that fluorescent blue. The loom on the indices is fluorescent blue, but the loom on the dial
Yeah,
is a darker shade of blue, which also looks really freaking awesome. And also the bezel has loom on it too, which is sweet. But it's just badass. It looks great. The color contrast is amazing, and it's a neat architecture for me as far as watches go.
yeah.
Again, is it a little gaudy? Yeah. Is it a little aughts perhaps? Yes. But I'm with it. I kind of like it. It kind of reminds me of an era when I got into watches, and that's what I like
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, that was the same era for me. Like, I remember when I got into watches, everything was Bell and Ross and Panerai.
Panerai, yeah, that
Like,
was
those were the watches. Like, everyone had those. It was those, those major watches, Panerais, Bell and Rosses. Everything was military, big, aggressive divers, like things like that, right? And this, ever since Bell and Ross, because Bell and Ross has produced divers before.
yeah,
But up until they went with the BRO case into a diver, I wasn't sold on the divers from them. Like, they just didn't look good because it looked like it was everything else, but it was not Bell and Ross,
yeah.
right? And once they started going into like the aviation cluster design, I'm like, okay, they're onto something that's truly special and different here. And then they came out with the diver version. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute, you know, this is something cool. And I've been enamored with their divers ever since. Like, I think it's a very cool watch. I love the very masculine, aggressive appeal of it. This design is fantastic. You're absolutely right about the 430 date. They do it right. It's subtle. Date windows are color matched. Everything is like that is perfect. And honestly, I prefer the older handset of the divers.
You like the old one?
I do. The newer one has kind of the broad arrow, kind of the big triangle hand on it now, but I kind of like the more like rectilinear handset of the other one. I just think it looks more symmetrical. But either way, all of the Bell and Ross divers that are out there now, if someone just gave them to me or was like, "Hey man, here's $4,000, go buy a Bell and Ross diver," I
Oh,
would
dude,
do it.
I would
I
wear
would
it
do it in a
proudly.
heartbeat.
Yeah,
I would do it in a heartbeat. I just think they're cool, and you know, honestly, I cannot remember the last time I saw a Bell and Ross at a meetup.
that's what I was thinking.
Like, because nobody talks about them anymore. It's like they had their moment, and the only guys that are still buying Bell and Rosses are like pilots, divers, like actual military divers, things like that. And even then, it's less of those people, right? But like maybe this is the time to buy a Bell and Ross because nobody cares about him anymore at
Well,
this
not for
point.
nothing, right? This is a $5,400 watch. I don't know if anybody in history has ever paid retail for a Bell and Ross.
But that's my
So,
point.
so
Like,
there you go. Like
what's the chrono price for a
let's
Bell and
start
Ross
chipping away on
diver
this
right
guy
now?
already. Like
That's that's kind of the thing I'm thinking, right? Like, you know, like these are the kinds of things like I kind of want to like start buying now because maybe if market turns, conditions change. Like this is the stuff that could be cool again,
I mean, look, dude,
and you could be ahead of the curve.
if you told anybody in 2018 that gold would come back, that square case dress watches, Cartier, all that would be back, they'd be like, "Listen, dude, it's steel sports or die."
Yeah,
And that's all it is. All right.
no,
The GMT Pepsi just came back. Why don't you go
yeah,
have a seat over there? Is what they would tell you.
yeah. The fact that dudes are over here rocking Cartier Benoits and shit, and we're talking like classically ladies watches, but dudes are wearing 20 millimeter
And
Cartiers on the
there's
wrist. I'm like, I grew up in the watch community that would bully you into the point of non-existence anymore. Like to wear something like that.
what is this, the 1920s?
I mean, like, like, like the forums were real dark and ugly back then. All right, like let's be honest. Like
It was a
if you
bad place. It really was.
if you showed up and
That I tell you,
posted that to a forum, they would have destroyed you.
I told you, though that level of abuse was what bred Brodinky.
I love it.
It was a direct result of that type of stuff, of witnessing that. And I was like, somebody has to take these people down a peg.
It
It
was
might as
it
well be me.
was it was ugly, man. It was the kind of stuff like and looking back on it now, it's like I can't believe I ever like trolled it, like just like first time poster, constant lurker, like back in
Yeah.
the day. I'm like, oh geez,
Anybody you
there's,
know where I could get one of these? And they're like, yeah, the
they're just gonna
dumpster.
roast
And
this
you're like,
dude.
God damn it.
Yeah, yeah. Just like throw yourself in the dumpster too while you're at it. It's like just get out of here. I'm like, oh man, it used to just bully people. It was so bad, but it. Yeah, you're right though. Like had you said to me in 2015, 2013
Imagine everybody's buying
that
Panerais
grown
Bell and
dudes
Ross.
that grown
Imagine.
dudes are gonna be rocking Cartier Panthers and stuff like that, I'd have thought you were nuts. I would have thought you were absolutely insane. And yeah, here we are, all these years later, and those are what people are rocking, which is still not a watch to me, but you know
But
what?
but does that mean that this stuff is due to come back soon? Maybe.
You know, that's my thing,
Look, I don't
right?
think NFL Chronomat's ever going back in style, but
Nope.
was it ever in style? Also, no, but this maybe, right? I've seen people kind of they'll look at Panerai once in a while and be like, they might have been onto something, right?
I mean, right now,
Recently on our group chat, right? Hey, that Pam kind of hits. It does.
I mean, I'm looking right now on Bell and Ross on eBay, man. It might be the time to scoop.
It's like $1,200.
Dude, I didn't want to say it, but yeah, dude, we're both like right around 1,500.
I'll get my buy-in before this airs.
There's a full blue ceramic Bell and Ross diver BRO or not diver, but BRO3 for $1,700. Buy it now.
Wowsies. That's something.
Full ceramic, bro. Full ceramic.
Full send.
Oh my gosh. Well, maybe somebody some of the wrist cheese heads will start
I can't
buying
wait
the
for
Bell
that
and
DM.
Rosses.
Guys, I did a thing.
It's like you guys really pushed me, man. Yeah, I bought this watch. I don't regret it. I'm like, hey man, good for you. You can get you a nice bronze diver limited edition, dude. $2,800. Let's go.
This exact watch, I'm looking at $1,000, $1,400 off MSRP already.
Yeah, that's crazy. Might be the time to scoop. Might be time to scoop. All right, man. I do have one more watch, but
Take it home.
it's kind of, super not necessary to talk about, to be honest with you. It was kind of my last resort, mail it in.
It's the Rolex
But
Submariner.
no, who could have seen that coming? No, honestly, it is a diver though. It's a Seiko monster. I love that little guy. and not everyone likes that little guy. So
It
um,
it's a very divisive watch.
it's a very divisive watch. Even all these years later, it's still a very divisive. I have a Gen 1 monster, so it was kind of like the most ugly of all the monster designs.
No
Like the
hacking,
OG,
no hacking, like the most
no
disgusting
hacking.
shade of loom you've ever
Yes.
seen.
Yes. And it
A
had the
lot of the orange.
24.
I'm assuming it's an orange. Yeah.
It's an orange.
So
Yes,
and it's
absolutely.
probably a hideous traffic cone shade of orange,
Yes.
and that's what
Yes.
makes it awesome.
It totally is. And yeah, it's a watch that I get asked about a lot. I have one. I'm very happy that I have one. Old school Seiko Shake movement, but just an absolute beast. And the loom is it's unparalleled.
No, it's great.
It's unparalleled. So
One of
there
my
you go. There's my
faves.
last
Yeah.
pick, but
Not me.
I
I mean,
mail it in.
you know what it is for Seiko heads. It's a classic. Dare I say, like an icon. But for people who aren't in that camp, they're like that is just ogreish. It's it's a lot what they hate about the Panerai and everything else. It's big,
Yeah.
it's bulky, it's in your face, it's something Guy Fieri would wear. You know, so I get it, but I have a
But
I
you're a
have a soft
Seiko
spot.
guy. You're a Seiko guy
I
too.
am.
So
So
you get it. You
that's
get
like
it.
that's my wheelhouse. But also, I understand people are probably like, "Ew."
Yeah. But for how much ew there's out there, these
Oh,
watches
there's
are selling for like $500.
plenty of ew to go around.
Like an old Gen 1 monster I saw for like $800.
You used to be able to get them for like 200 back in the
Bro, you used to
day.
be able to get them for like a buck 80, like
Yeah.
180. And that was kind of like twisting somebody's arm to be like, all right, dude, like, okay, this is an ugly watch. I know I'm not going to sell it. So like, you know, like I think the monster that I have, a buddy of mine bought it for $180 as part of like like a partial
Yep.
trade deal
Yep.
plus a watch. You know what I mean? Like,
It was a
like
throw in.
just like get this one out of here too. Like just take it, do something with it. So he gave it to me, and I'm like, because I've always liked it. I thought it was kind of funky and weird. And when I first got it, I'm like, oh no, did I make a mistake? Like this is not cool. And then I started wearing it. I'm like, no, this is cool. This is exactly how cool I should be. So there you go. Go buy you Seiko Monsters. They're awesome. Fantastic watches. And they will never die. Unlike your Cartier Benoit. That one will die.
Which you probably don't even know is not running.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
All right. That was good. That was a good one. But yeah, I thought it would be a fun exercise and just it's always fun to play on the flip side once in a while. There's enough hate to go around and enough jokes and trash talk and all that other stuff. Every once in a while it's fun to say, you know what? It might be trash, but it's my trash.
It's right.
One man's trash is this
It's
guy's
another man's
treasure.
treasure. Yep. There you go. We'll take it.
That's it. That's it. All right. Yeah. Until next time, folks, be good. Go get yourself a pink strap. Tag us. Absolutely. All of us, whatever wrist cheese, me, strap habit, the whole bunch of us. We love to see it, love to share it. It's that time of year. So now through October 31st, make it happen. Other than that, I don't know, man. Just waiting for good old Wind Up NYC to roll around.
There we go.
Coming up.
There we go. Keep it easy. Keep it cheesy. Let's go.
I like it. I like it a lot, folks. Peace.